It's Tuesday and we've come to a new place. I'm not sure where yet, but we will see. It's always good to explore and go random places. Okay, so we've come to a village, and I really mean a village because we were on a highway for a while, and then we were on a side road for a while, and then it turned to bumpy road, and then it turned to dirt road. So yeah, we are definitely in a village. And this village, it has a bunch of Russians, and these types of villages are common, but apparently at this village there's a lot of Germans here too. We met a couple back here. They don't speak any Russian yet. Only German. So we're going from German to English somehow. And we're gonna meet some other people that have moved here too. So if you want to see what I guess this will be a modern Russian village. These are more modern houses, but I've shown you some of the local villages too. But even among villages where they're building new houses, these are pretty typical for Russian houses too. These are not like special foreigner houses or anything. And over off in the distance, there's a dairy farm there, I know, because as we drove by it, it said Malako and things, so they were selling milk. And so why would Germans come to Russia? Well, Germany and Russia have a long history together, and no, I don't mean just World War II. Imperial times, the royal family exchange, and so forth. And culturally, well, they share cabbage and potatoes. My family's ethnically German, so not just the foods, but the lifestyle of many Germans can be very similar. So Germans find it very, it's not so different for them to move to Russia. And many Germans are finding that they don't like where the modern Germany is going, culturally, legally, and so there are quite a few Germans moving to Russia. I mean, maybe not in the millions or so, but enough that you notice them. They're around, and it's becoming more popular as more and more people are choosing to leave Western Europe. So we have another German family, and I'll give some commentary later. Right now I'm just trying to collect the information and then I can summarize it instead of you watching people talking German and Russian for an hour.
A different country.
We're still learning the language, so it's hard to communicate, but we hope that the better we can speak, the better we can find our place here.
And do you miss Germany or no?
No, right now. There's
So,
no future.
and what about your friends, like, or your classmates who were in Germany, or how did they react when you say that you are going to Germany? No, sorry, you are leaving Germany and coming to Russia. How did they react?
They stopped having contact with me.
They stopped having contact with you. Oh my goodness.
And did you come from Eastern Germany too, or Western Germany?
She was born in France.
France, okay.
So I wasn't born in Germany.
But when you lived in Germany, did you live Eastern or Western Germany?
We lived in in Western Germany, but our parents come from Eastern Germany, so we had some kind of
Mix of cultures.
we were influenced by our parents, exactly.
We try, yes. If they could change the whole situation, I'm skeptical. But at the beginning, it would be a good start to build better relations to other countries. First, of course, to Russia. Yes.
Okay, we talked for about an hour or so, and it was a very interesting conversation. I'm going to try and summarize what these two families have said through Russian and German. My German is barely anything, and the last family spoke English. But basically, both families moved here. The one couple's a little bit older than the other. A couple other couples younger with kids in their 20s, and the first couple's from Eastern Germany. The second couple grew up in Eastern Germany, but they lived in Western Germany when they had the kids. And they had a number of issues why they moved to Russia, but the number one was the politics. They felt that the politics and the economics of Germany were not good looking forward for them or their kids in the near and midterm future. And why would that be? Well, there were a couple issues. One was immigrants, and I want to be clear because this is a very nuanced topic. They were not against immigrants, but the quantity. the number of immigrants that have moved into Europe and Germany are overwhelming the social systems. One of them was a nurse in an intensive care unit, and she said they had so many patients, Germans plus everybody, that they had to bring in foreign doctors. I mean, the foreign doctors now don't speak German, and then the answer is bringing more doctors, bringing more patients, and it's this cycle. And Germany's changing so fast, and you have this issue. And not only that, but you know, normally when immigrants come to a country, especially when the numbers are not so large, they integrate. And Germany actually did a very good job of this initially. They had a policy, your kids will learn German, and they put them through it. And Germany was an example in the beginning, but at some point that got overloaded. And it's gone from integration to changing Germany, which if you've lived in a country your whole life, you start to feel like the minority in your own country. And I understand that. So they themselves are now immigrants in Russia, but of course they're a minority and they're adapting. So the second family's only been here, they were here through the winter, so they've been here. The other one has been here for about 4 years and has already achieved citizenship. They chose Nizhny Novgorod. One of them traveled, got a car, a Russian car, drove all throughout Siberia to Baikal and so forth, but they just made some contacts here and they like Nizhny. And the reason there are so many Germans in this area, in this village, in this area, is that, well, families talk. And when you first come here, it takes a while to learn the language, to learn the culture, and it's easier if you live near someone who speaks your language and can help you. So it's more of a, like a German support association. It's not that, hey, we're Germans, we want to stay, I mean, they want to keep their identity, but they want to integrate, but it's just, it's more of an assistance. And we saw the same thing. I mean, my family was German, but moved to the US in the 1700s and 1800s. And it was the same thing. I mean, I grew up in a part that they called Little Germany, and it was next to Little Italy, and they all got along. Maybe, I don't know how it was in the 1800s, but when I was there, I went to a Catholic school, and all the names were German, Italian, Polish, and a few others, but those were really the big ones. And the other thing they mentioned was LGBT issues, and again, another nuanced topic. They weren't against LGBT people, but they felt like there was an agenda there, and I understand this too, because I'm actually more liberal on that issue than I would say most Russians. I'm really a live and let live type person, and I have many people in those categories, many friends. But it's like it's become overrepresented in certain ways. It's like it's gone from being too oppressed to too far the other way in Western areas. I mean, you cannot there are no Western television shows. It used to be like black people are represented. So like, okay, now we have to have TV shows and 25% of people on the show have to be black and 50% have to be women. And they have these quotas, but now it's like, I don't know what the LGBT population is, but let's say it's 5%. Okay, that's a scientific number that I've seen bandied about, and let's just accept it for this debate right now. But it's being overrepresented. Every TV show has not just a gay couple, but an in-your-face gay couple. And you know, I'm fine with it, but it gets to the point where you feel that it's not representation, it's evangelism of sorts. And I'm not saying they're trying to convert people or anything, but I'm just saying that, especially for people who grow up with certain values, they feel like it's an overrepresentation, and they feel like their rights are being trampled on at the expense of someone else. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments for that. I'm just trying to explain the nuances here. But the biggest issue, that was not the biggest issue for them. The biggest issue was definitely politics and the economy. They didn't feel, because of the number of immigrants that were coming in, it's overwhelming the economy, it's overwhelming the social system, and it's not leaving a good life for people who have lived and resided in Germany for decades. So they felt they had better opportunity to go elsewhere. Here in Russia, things are more affordable for them. They're able to live a better life. They feel like they fit in better with the values here. And this is why Westerners are coming here. Again, Westerners are not coming to Russia in the millions, but they are coming in the thousands. And you can poo-poo this, you can, say it's insignificant, but people just want to live their lives, and they want to live somewhere where they can afford to, and they feel like they have a future. And for many people in the West, that is starting to become Russia. And another issue that didn't come up today, but is the taxation. So if you are self-employed in Russia, you can pay 6% as an individual entrepreneur, plus 1% social contribution for your health care and that kind of stuff. So basically it's 7%. So if you're coming from Germany, and let's say you've lived in Germany your whole life and you're in your 50s or any age really, and you're looking, I'm paying all these taxes. And they did talk about the money going to Ukraine as well. They talked about, you know, how Germany was a pacifist state, and now that Ukraine war that they're sending, they become a very aggressive state. And they're sending so much money to Ukraine that Germany's already struggling to deal with their own internal issues. Where do they have money from? They also talked about, you know, Germany, the politicians of Germany basically becoming lapdogs of the Americans. And they feel that a lot of the militarization is as a result of that as well. So, well, back to the main point there, that, you know, if you're in your 50s or 60s and, you know, you're starting to think, well, in Germany I'm getting more and more taxed, the quality of life is going down in Germany, and you have kids and you start to think, what is their future? And then you look at Russia, where you can come, you can pay 7%, where there is, you know, free education, free top-notch education, healthcare, which is built into the social structure. I know I'll call it free, and somebody say, but you pay your taxes. Okay, listen, yes, it comes from somewhere, but the point is, it's not the American-style thing where you're going broke, where, you know, you're poor and you can't make a little bit more money, because you make a little bit more money, you lose your health insurance, and the amount of health insurance it'll cost you to buy will cost you more than you make, so you get trapped in this lower level thing. They don't have that here in Russia. You make more money, your health insurance contribution, it raises up only, you know, a small percentage of your income. It doesn't go from free to unaffordable. And just the general quality of life. I've talked about the support for families, so they can come here and they can have a much better quality of life in Russia to live out their, you know, live out their lives and raise, in this case, their adult children feel the same way. So, okay, I'm going to talk about my trip and how I ended up on this trip a little bit later. But I do want to mention, because I always get comments of people who want to move to Russia or come visit Russia. First of all, I'd recommend absolutely you come visit a country first. You don't just move to a country. And they did that too. They had been here several times, and they brought their adult kids with them one summer, and they really just fell in love with it and realized what's being said in the West was simply not true. And so if that's something you might want to do, you can contact me. You can find the link tree in my profile on the various platforms. You can comment in the comments, and I assist people moving to Russia, and with all aspects of it. I don't do it directly. I work together with a variety of firms here in Russia, immigration firms, financial firms. I'm not a financial advisor, okay, I'm not an immigration expert, but I'm a person who connects people up who need things with people who provide things. I'm a facilitator, you could say. What does a house like the log cabin over there or one of these cost? Well, the one family is renting this one for now. I don't know specifically in this area, and this area is definitely cheaper than St. Petersburg, okay? But I have seen in St. Petersburg, not directly in the city, but say like 45 minutes outside the city by train, faster by car. I've seen houses like these go for around $100,000, including the land. So again, I don't know what they cost out here. Nizhny's cheaper. I would guess they're going to cost maybe about the same, maybe a little bit more. So if you're looking for affordability, I don't know housing prices in Germany or Western Europe, but I would expect that this is much cheaper. Just with the house, this looks like from inside. Very modern, very European, shall we say. Look, an oven, but obviously you can see this is made of the stone. So what they do is they can cook in here, but in the winter they'll heat this up, and this stone gets really hot, and then it moderates the temperature so it doesn't get like really hot and then really cold. So they can heat it up, store all the heat in here, and then just slowly stoke it to keep it charged, and this will heat the whole room. He said the stove's from Finland, and so nice big dining area. Look at the nice big windows, entryway over there. Really nice place just to sit and eat. Okay, so as I told you, I always kind of evolve as I understand more. So the first family, it's their project. They've built about 8 houses. They build the houses. They did something similar in Germany, and then they sell and rent them. And this one, the one we're in, that one's a little more expensive. That one's probably around $300,000, depending on the exchange rate. So I guess the other ones are probably maybe not quite as expensive as that one, but I still expect maybe $250 for the ones that are here anyways. I know in St. Petersburg they're not as quite up to the standards you saw inside, so it's going to depend on what you're looking for and where you want to be. But the house we're in, you can see the whole thing. It was actually much bigger than the other ones, and it has a whole separate garage that's the size of the house too. So. And now we're in a different small town or village. They have grocery stores, that postal van, obligatory Lenin statue. And we're meeting with the Minister of Agriculture for Nizhny Novgorod region, as I understand. It's the happy cow. Farm to table food, I think. Anyways, smells delicious. Cheese is very good. Stuffed cabbage is very good. Everything's very good, but really, oh, and the red fish. Really into the red fish, stuffed cabbage, and the cheese. When you arrive somewhere in the hands of these plastic things. But it's a good thing they're for our feet and not our hands, because you know what the ones for your hands are for. Well, I grew up in a dairy town, so we're on a milk farm, and this smells very familiar to me because my whole town smelled like this. I didn't grow up on a dairy farm myself, but many of my friends did, and I spent a lot of weekends at their houses, so I spent a lot of time in jumping out of hay bales and barns and stuff and around the cows. And cows are really stupid, but I think they're kind of cool. And so this is a big dairy farm here, full of cows. And for this, those who don't know, yes, beef cows are different from dairy cows, and these are dairy cows. These are the ones that make chocolate milk, and those are the ones that make vanilla milk. You can see off in the distance there's a rotating brush, and the cows are scratching themselves on it. It's actually really quite warm outside, like 28 or 30, but these big fans in here, it's actually quite cool in here. It almost feels like it's air conditioned. And there's this chain slowly pulling through. I assume it's got something, a rake or something that's probably pulling out the cow poop and probably pulling through some straw to mix it in somewhere. Not yet. Yeah, here's another fast not moving. So it pulls through this big rake very slowly. And they probably throw a straw in there to mix it and pull it out. And then the manure, it will go out and the sun gets, I don't know, cured, whatever the term is for it. And then at least where I grew up, they would throw it into the fields as fertilizer. They're not operating now, but there's also some ventilation fans on the roof, I guess, to carry out excess heat when it gets even warmer. Salt, because their animal needs some salt once in a while. Kind of like furry dinosaurs. Say hello. There's the cow massager. It seems to turn on when they push it. There's another one down here, and the cows are. And there's I don't know, an extractor taking the poop out and take it out. Or I put it in the sun somewhere to, again, cure is not the right word for it. Water. There's the rake. What about the cows? Well, it moves very slowly. They'll just step over it. They'll calm, they'll bump them, and just watch and see what happens. Yep, right over it. No problem. There's the cow wash. I've been informed they selected the best breeds of American cows and brought them here, now they bring them here. So, these are all cow spies. Not cow pies, cow spies. Spend another day at the cow buffet. Num num. Num num. This is the rare supervisory cow. He's overseeing the repair work. They process the milk, pasteurization and homogenization. You have to mix up milk to get the fat content to be spread out. You skim the top off for other milk products and of course make skim milk. And pasteurize it to kill the bacteria and make it last a little bit longer on the shelf too. Here's the area where they bring them in to milk them.
Manicure, pedicure.
Here's where they, it says manicure and pedicure, so it looks like an angle grinder. Yeah, it's an angle grinder. And they're cutting the hooves. And like horses, you have to trim their hooves because they'll just keep growing and growing. And, well, wild cows don't necessarily have this problem, but domesticated cows, you need to keep the hooves down, otherwise they curl over and they have problems walking. So this is a machine for doing that. There's the app for tracking, controlling the cows. You can see, but the screen's tracking the sleep habits of the cows and when they're inside and outside, sun and dark and things like that. Here are the remote controls for the cyber cows. This is where all the secret plans happen to do the secret cow modifications we talked about earlier. And the cyber cow and that big green thing. Russian trucks ready for the farm. Look how high up they are. Go through everything. Look over here. Cow domes. This farm has nearly 2,000 cows. Here we have the baby cows. One has his own little house. This one's about 3 weeks old. Cows come out pretty much ready to walk, by the way.
После первой сессии.
Когда корова хочет стать мамой.
Okay, say goodbye to the cows. Okay, now we've gone from cow farm to horse farm.
Какого пола?
Кстати, меня уже перечислили. Меня уже поздно, что ли, научиться?
Не кажется. Такой ржанием приветствует.
И вот это мастер, как это называется?
Это серая. А скоро начнем. Универсальная арабская лошадь. Можно зайти вот так, подойти и по.
Это мама и сын или как? Или? Они будут здесь открыты, они будут здесь закрыты.
Ну, это, во-первых, каждый владелец, да?
This one's very curious and apparently won a lot of awards. Very friendly. This one says, leave the food and go quickly. That's a rough translation. I think leave the food and go away is a closer translation.
Спасибо большое. Выделываете. Хлопайте, хлопайте. Хорошие. Пробуем по WhatsApp поговорить. Сегодня приехали. На самом деле это прекрасный.
Okay, so the conference there was the owner, she's an American lady, and conference because she wasn't able to be here. I know the lighting's not fantastic right here, but she owns this whole farm and they focus on Arabian horses, and they were selling them, they were competing them with the sanctions. The sanctions don't stop them from actually competing, but the problem is that they have nobody to get horses in and out of Russia unless they sell them and rebuy them, which is not viable. So I'm not recording entire things like some other bloggers. I'm not criticizing what they're doing, it's fine, but most of the stuff here is in Russian, and so me recording hours and hours of Russian content and posting it, it's too tedious to translate and so forth. So I'm just providing little glimpses, little summaries to show you what you can do here. But she talked about how it is to run a business here. I didn't catch exactly how long she's been here. She's married to a Russian guy and they have 3 kids. I don't know if the 3 kids are born here or not, but they're in their 20s. She speaks very good Russian, so she's been here for a while, let's put it that way, possibly 20 years or more. And you know, she just welcomes people to Nizhny Novgorod area. We're not in the city, we're about like 25 miles outside the city, and that's just the gist of, you know, what's going on here. Despite what many people might think, especially Americans, Russia is not super difficult to do business. It's not the 1990s where you have to, you know, pay somebody off. And in a lot of ways, it's easier in the U.S. because the U.S. has become so over-regulated that unless you run a really small business or a really big business, the medium-sized business in the U.S., it's very easy to start a business in the U.S., but to actually run a business and not keep afoul of all the regulations is extremely hard. Russia has bureaucracy, but it's generally been streamlined. and it's not so heavily regulated. I mean, there are regulations, there's fire codes, you know, it's not like the Wild West. But most of the people I've talked to have said that they found it easier running a business in Russia than they have the US. Now, of course, you're going to have to learn Russian at some point, but you know, if you're going to run a business, then you're going to have to hire somebody to handle your Russian side or get your Russian up. So that's a summary. If I think of other things, I will post them, but it's been a nice day to come here and see the horses. And here, I'll try and zoom in on it, but it's Cosmo Dus. So if you want the website, it's cosmo-deus.ru, and they have VK. And no, I did not receive any compensation from this horse farm whatsoever, other than the tour and a cup of tea. So I don't think that counts as a sponsored ad, does it? One last parting look before we go. They also, it's like a horse hotel, I don't know what it's called, but basically a lot of people on horses don't have farms, so they can bring them here and they can board them here as well. I don't know what time. I didn't even see we're on the bus, but this is an aerial tramway. It runs across the river. It goes for about 2.5 miles, takes 13 minutes. It was finished in 2012, and it turns a 20-mile road trip into a short jaunt into another city over there. I think it's called Bor, and I would definitely like to try that sometime. Well, I don't think I'm gonna have time this trip, but covering all the transit topics and things, I would love to do it. I bet it'd be awesome to watch the sunset from up there. Here's a little better view.